Hey, it's LSuperSonicQ. LSuperSonicQ here. It's LSuperSonicQ. Hey guys, it's LSuperSonicQ here, and today we're going to take a look at the evolution of my Mario clay sculpt. Just as Mario's artwork and image has changed over the years, so have my sculpts when I'm making a Mario model. Today we'll take a look at my first Mario, all the sculptures in between that prove as evolution points to the now most recent Mario that I've sculpted. So here he is, the first Mario that I sculpted back around 2005 when Mario Kart Double Dash came out. For a first sculpt, his characteristics are pretty accurate, such as his large nose and buttons on his overalls. However, the proportion isn't that great, and some things like the hat are just sculpted completely wrong, but I guess that's expected for a first model, especially with the amount of skill I had back then. And my Mario sculpt certainly wouldn't be where it was now if it wasn't for him. Second is a more accurately sculpted Mario, of which I'm not exactly sure when it was sculpted, probably no more than a year or 2 years after my first Mario. There's not a whole lot to talk about here except for the fact that proportion got better, and debatably the face may be better or worse than the last one. Around this time I would have my certain way of sculpting a certain clay model. However, like I said, proportion did improve, and in my opinion I do think this one's a little bit more accurate than my first sculpt. Now we move on to a much more accurate Mario, smaller though, sculpted roughly from the Super Smash Bros. Melee trophy model. Yeah, this guy is smaller than the other ones I've shown so far, however I do think it's more accurate. There's a certain quality about the face that I can just identify with that shows I really can start to grasp the idea of, how to sculpt a Mario, plus the hat is proportioned, and I'm showing some originality with a pose a little bit, or at least some kind of handle that suggests I know what I'm doing. So upon first glance, you might not think that this model would come next in the evolution line, however, it does for one reason. Its size. This model is by far larger than the other two. It's probably about 5 inches, which is what I would consider my jumbo size back then. And while it might not mean a more accurately sculpted clay model, it means a confidence clay model. Normally back then I wouldn't sculpt large unless I was confident enough in what I was doing, and I know that this model isn't that great, or, on cue with exactly how Mario looks, but because it's so large means that I had kind of a confidence about me that I could sculpt the Mario, I knew what I was doing, and that, if I practiced enough, then it would only go up from here. And it does in the next model. So this next one, in my opinion, is probably the most accurately sculpted colored clay Mario model that I've made. This is Mario in his pose from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, so he was probably sculpted a year or so after the game's release. Right off the bat, you can clearly tell that this model is a much more accurate Mario, the shapes are better, the clay is cleaner, and overall it just shows a kind of sense of not only confidence, but also just a really solid model that pretty much suggests I know what I'm doing now. There are a few imperfections, don't get me wrong. I think the ears are a little flat and the nose is kind of flat too. However, that was probably just, what the clay ended up doing as I tried to fit the head on the body and stuff. I should also mention that the jump between the last model and this model was probably about a couple years, because I remember there was a time where I really didn't sculpt any Mario models, so this one was kind of a rebirth of my Mario sculpt. And maybe that's a reason too as to why it looks so much better than the other ones. The next evolutionary Mario clay model is one that's very famous on my YouTube channel, and it's my first attempt at a Super Mario 64 Mario. This Mario was also sculpted a while after the Brawl Mario, so in a sense it's kind of like a rebirth as well. And it's almost unique in a way too, because it's not just a Mario model, but again, I tried to use artwork to my advantage and really make the model look like, Super Mario 64. There is a sense of inaccuracy because it's not exactly as the artwork dictates, however, it does show evolution in the fact that after all these years since the beginning, it essentially is a rebirth, and now, I'm kind of taking the sculpts to the next level at this point in my Mario sculpting career. But now for my latest and greatest Mario sculpture. I think this guy has probably appeared in about 3 videos now, so I hope you're not too tired of him, but yes, it's the true Mario 64 Mario figure. This one was a resculpt of the previous one I just showed, and it does Mario 64 a lot of justice, as well as Mario as a character. As I've said numerous times before, I've paid incredible amounts of attention to the sculpt of this guy, incredible amounts of attention to the paint job, and together it just not only, again, kind of defines, you know, how far my Mario sculpture has come, but how far my clay sculpting has come as well, which I guess is also kind of a running theme in these videos, not just the evolution of a character, but the evolution of, you know, my clay career. This is the closest thing to a master sculpt that I have right now, and I'll probably sculpt more Marios in the future, so maybe I'll make a model that even looks better than this one. But for now, that was the evolution of my Super Mario clay figure. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not too sure on how accurate the dates are in terms of when they were sculpted, because it does kind of strike me as odd to think that so many of them were sculpted within the same year, so I thought that naturally they had to be sculpted a ways apart, but I tried my best to date them, and at the very least I'm pretty sure that the order that I listed them in is correct, just based on how well they were, you know, sculpted. But when exactly they were sculpted seems to be up for some debate. But with that said, thanks for watching, guys. Again, I'm LSuperSonicQ, and until the next video, Finn.